Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Whining About Herstory, a podcast where two longtime gal pals swap stories of women that you may not have heard of before, and we chug wine while doing it. Welcome to our third episode. We're very glad you're joining us.
Woohoo! Number 3, Trinity.
I'm Kelley.
I'm Emily.
And I guess let's just get going.
Yeah, so if you're a new listener, just a little heads up, what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the wine we're drinking, and then each of us are going to cover stories of badass gals that you've probably never heard, and Kelley's going to announce the cheap-ass wine that we're about to start chugging.
I actually don't know how cheap it is to buy, but this was the ultimate cheap-ass wine, as in, I had it in my basement, and I don't know how long it's been there.
And you got it for free.
Yeah. It was a gift. I remember that.
The only way we could get cheaper is if someone paid us to drink the wine. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sponsor us.
Yeah. So today we are drinking a ForestVille 2013 Riesling. And it says, ForestVille varietal wines are produced from the finest vineyards in Northern California. The soil composition and climate combine with modern viniculture technique, and meticulous attention to detail to produce wines with abundant flavor and exceptional varietal character. We firmly believe that our quest for quality begins in the vineyard.
And this is not an ad.
It is very good. We had a little.
You know, for this wine being probably about 3 years old.
Oh, probably. It's probably 4, because I think I got it when we got our house.
Yeah. It's pretty good. And, I mean, half a glass got me where I want to be, so I'm all good.
Cheers to super cheap free wine.
Cheers to super cheap free wine. Clink.
And thanks to my husband for opening the bottle for us.
Oh my god, we have had the worst time trying to open our wine the past couple times.
Experiences.
So, episode 2, my boyfriend opened the wine, and the only wine opener I own is this really cheap.
I think you have to say owned at this point.
Yeah, this is a past tense situation. It's one of those wine openers where you have the sheath, and then the top of the screw has the hole, and you put the sheath through the hole to, like, give yourself leverage.
Sounds so dirty.
Oh, yeah. We're very sexy on this podcast. So you put the sheath through the hole, and you just turn and crank it as hard as you can until pop. No, but seriously, he broke the wine opener and cut his hand open, and then had to use pliers to pry the screw out of the cork wine, and the cork out of the bottle.
But he didn't bleed into the wine. We're good.
Yeah, we're fine. But that's just how dedicated we are to bringing you quality broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
Emphasis on the broad.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so today I'm starting off welcoming a new lady to our Femi family.
Ooh, I love that. Welcome to our Femi family listeners.
From episode 1.
If you can't tell, we've already been drinking.
Oh, and get ready for terrible pronunciation on my part. Okay, so I'm doing a very old lady. Very old. It's Hatshepsut, and she was actually the first and one of the few pharaohs of Egypt. Female pharaoh of Egypt.
Oh, shit.
So she was born in 1508 BCE. So we're going way back.
Before Christ extremely.
Yeah, there you go. So she was the elder daughter, born to Thutmose. Why is it so much easier to pronounce the men's name?
Because no one gives a shit. They're like, oh, he's just going to be Twatmos. Whatever.
So she was the eldest of 2 daughters born to Thutmose I and his queen Ames. Probably said that wrong. After her father's death, 12-year-old Hatshepsut became the queen of Egypt. So not the pharaoh, the queen. They have slightly different roles. But she became the queen when she married her half-brother, Thutmose II.
Fucking gross.
Who was the son of her father and one of his secondary wives. This was back when, like, the pharaohs had, like, their primary wife and then, like, their secondary wives who were really just their concubines.
Their second-tier wives. The backup wives.
The backup wives.
B team. You know what's really interesting? we have this weird synergy, and Kelley and I do not talk about who we're doing or the stories beforehand, but I feel like every story of ours has this weird commonality. And so harems totally play into my story, and half-brothers play very strongly into my story.
There we go. So mine doesn't last very long. The half-brother, not the story. The story lasts a while.
Oh,
the half-brother doesn't.
Mine.
So the half-brother, and then her, because she was his queen, inherited the throne in 1592 BC. They did have one daughter together named Neferuri.
That's so cute.
We're gonna go with that.
We're just gonna call her Neffy.
So Thutmose II died after only a 15-year reign. So I guess he was around for a little while.
I mean, if I could rule anything for 15 years, I'd say that's a pretty damn good run.
Right? So obviously that made Hatshepsut a widow. And that's all before the age of 30.
Damn. She's done more before 30 than I have. I'm 28. This is sad.
Throne went to her husband's, or her former husband's, son, who was also born to a secondary wife named Isis. But because she was the queen, she began acting as his regent, because he was obviously not old enough to rule.
So she was kind of like, yeah, you're the king, but you're also still picking your nose and wetting
you're
the bed.
a child.
So I'm going to get shit done here.
And he was named Thutmose III. Because that's how Egyptian dynasties work.
They just didn't want to think of new names.
So she stepped up to be queen, or regent, at the age of 30. So she was 30 when that happened. Which is interesting, because we've been talking about a lot of women that obviously came after Hatshepsut. And we're like, oh, 30's super old. But apparently in BCE Egypt, 30's not that old. It declined, like, they lived a long time, and then it declined so they only lived a short time, and now we're back up.
She's, like, still riding her bike with the little tassels and the beads on the spokes. Oh my god, do you remember those?
Yeah, those were awesome.
My neighbor had one of those, and I was really jealous, and she was always shoving it in my face. I'm like, you bitch in your beads.
You
bitch in your beads.
Bitch in your beads. All right. So, initially, Hatshepsut bore the role traditionally. She acted, as a regent and was fine, basically pseudo-controlling the government. But for reasons that are unclear, some Egyptologists said that it was just her ambition that drove her, while others think that maybe there was a threat to her husband's lineage or a political crisis or something else that threatened the throne that made her decide to step up and take... I'm not going to say take, because that's not right. Step up and pronounce herself pharaoh, essentially. Because
I'm not going to take this from you, but I'm just going to say this is what's happening
now. I'll explain it. So that was after less than 7 years after her husband died. Within that time frame. She decided to claim the role as pharaoh. Technically, this is where it comes, she did not usurp the throne. Or the crown. Because Thutmose III was never disposed of and was considered a co-ruler throughout her life. But it is clear that she was the primary ruler in power.
Okay, so she
didn't kill him. He was still there. But she was like, no, I'm not going to act as a regent. Like, I'm just going to do this.
It's like, I'm doing the job. I'm making the decisions. I might as well have the title.
Yeah.
Because fuck you.
And she was the first woman to claim full power as pharaoh.
You know what? Good for her. Like, it's like when you're working at a job and you're like, hey, I know this isn't in your responsibilities. Could you just like do this thing, that thing, and the other thing? But you don't get paid for it and you don't get the title to put on your resume. She's like, bitches, I'm pharaoh.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Right? And she's considered one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs.
I love that. I love she wasn't just
she was
ruler.
Yeah.
She was good at it.
And she was the longest reigning female pharaoh in Egypt.
Holy shit. How long did she reign?
20 years.
Holy shit.
So longer than her husband.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So knowing that her power grab was highly controversial, Hatshepsut fought to defend her legitimacy by pointing out that she was from the royal lineage, obviously, and that her father, so Thutmose I, had appointed her his successor. So, like, she's like, no, I deserve to be here. These are the reasons I deserve to be here.
She's the only full-blooded royal vying for the throne because everyone else has been like
Secondary
from
wife.
the B team.
The B team.
The B team wives.
Right.
Which is terrible, but
it's true. So trying to reinvent her image in statues and paintings of the time, she ordered that she be portrayed as a man with a beard and large muscles. There are some images, however, that she is appearing as in traditional female regalia, but most of her like depictions as pharaoh is her as a man.
That is super interesting that her legitimacy to the throne kind of vied on her presenting herself as a traditional masculine figure. Like, hey, you're not going to accept me as a woman, so I'm going to beef myself up in all these bitchin' carvings.
And it does say, although, obviously we don't know if this is true, but what I read is people don't believe that this was an attempt to trick people into thinking she was male. They think that it was rather that they didn't have words or images or a way to portray a female as a pharaoh because it's something that hadn't happened. So this was her way of asserting her authority. Because they had no way of saying, oh, she's a woman in power. So she's like, fine, if I can, if we can't depict it, just depict me as a man in power.
I trust you and your research, but I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around that this advanced civilization who spoke in literal pictures couldn't draw a woman like with a crown or something. What the hell?
Maybe a woman with a crown back then represented something else. I don't know hieroglyphics. I've always been super obsessed with Egypt. Like, I've loved Egypt since I was little. And so I wish I could be like, yeah, I can read hieroglyphics and this means that. I can't, and I really want to. So if someone out there knows if there is a hieroglyph of a lady with a crown and knows what it means, let us know at whiningabouthersstory.com.
And that's whining without an E. Because that has been
that's a story for later, though.
That's a story. We'll talk about that at the end, but oh my god, I have words.
So many words. So under Hatshepsut's reign, Egypt prospered. Unlike other rulers, she was more interested in ensuring her economy was prospering and building and restoring monuments throughout Egypt and Nubia, because apparently at this point Egypt owned Nubia. She wasn't interested in conquering new lands, which I guess a lot of old pharaohs had been. They were more interested in expanding their borders than ensuring their people were happy.
Priorities.
You're right.
I get it. I want to own all of this.
Everything.
And I don't care if you're happy, because I'm going to own all of this.
So she did undertake a lot of ambitious building projects, particularly in the area around Thebes. Her greatest achievement was the enormous memorial temple at Deir el-Bahri.
You said that with such confidence. I completely believe that's how you pronounce it.
It is considered one of the architectural wonders of ancient Egypt. Another great achievement of her in her 9th year of her reign, so just under halfway through, was a trading expedition that she authorized that brought back vast riches, including ivory, ebony, gold, leopard skins, incense. And they brought it all back to Egypt from a distant land known as Punt.
What?
Yep. That's what it says.
Oh
distant land known as Punt. Trust me, I reread that section 4 times before I put it in my note.
Where is Punt now? Can
they
we go
believe
there?
It's possibly modern day Eritrea.
I didn't know Eritrea was a thing either. Thank you, American schooling system. Right. Thank you, geography.
The scene of these her sending these merchants out and then bringing back all these riches is depicted on that temple she built.
That's
on one of the
cool.
walls.
So she went out and got shit done.
Yeah. She also built a temple called the Jeshuru. That's probably terribly wrong. Also known as the holiest of holy places. Which was
redundant,
right?
But okay.
It was dedicated to Amun and served as her funerary cult.
Wait, she had a funerary cult?
Yep.
So a bunch of people were super obsessed with her dying?
I think in this case, cult means burial preparation area.
She had a team.
Yes.
I want a funerary
I think
cult.
when you get mummified, you just automatically get a team of people.
Can we get funerary cults?
Sure.
Kelley,
but I don't want to be mummified.
Kelley, I'll be part of your funerary cult. When you die
whichever one of
someday-
us dies first, the other one has to lead their funerary cult.
Kelley, if you die first, I'm going to be the leader of your funerary cult, and I'm going to get up at your funeral and speak and be like, as the head of Kelley's funerary cult, I would just like to thank you all for being here.
I will do the same if you die first.
And I'll just be chugging wine the whole time to cope with my grief.
Yeah. She also erected a pair of red granite obelisks at the Temple of Ammon in Karnak. One of which still is standing today, or at least was standing when the article I read about it was written.
Oh, shit. I want to see that, because I
know.
always see, like,
I want to go to Egypt. Real
tan
bad.
ones. And, you have the image of the black obelisk, but I want to see a red one.
I know, it'd be cool.
It's our school colors, black and red.
No, it's your school colors. Mine were Kelley green and...
No,
our
our university.
Sorry, yeah.
Like,
Black,
Kelley,
red, and white.
What school did you think you were going to?
I was thinking high school. I just blanked on my college years. Hatshepsut also had one other notable trading expedition that she sent ships to what they believe to like a different part of Africa. It didn't say exactly where, but they came back with like myrrh and incense and stuff like that. So like she was really good at sending people out and then finding shit and coming back.
So like maybe they went to Jerusalem and they're like, hey, look at this manger with all this frankincense and myrrh.
Oh,
and
there's
gold.
a baby. We don't want the baby. We'll take the other stuff.
What's a baby gonna do with some gold, frankincense, and myrrh?
That's funny. So eventually, as everyone does, she died in early February of 1458 BC. BC always confuses me because she was born in like 15 something and died in 14 something, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's backwards.
And her funerary cult was stoked. Finally, all this preparation, and the bitch finally died.
In recent years, scientists have speculated that her death may have been related to an ointment or salve used to alleviate a chronic genetic skin condition.
So she like had an accidental overdose?
Yeah, they basically think a treatment she was using contained a toxic ingredient. So not accidental overdose, more like self-poisoning.
But on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
accidental poisoning?
That's so sad.
Testing of the artifacts near her tomb have revealed traces of a carcinogenic substance. And so they think that's what killed her in the end.
That seems like, I don't know, like so unnecessary. Like she could have kept kicking for many, many years and...
Yeah, because they Helmut Weidenfeld of the University of Bonn's Pharmaceutical Institute said, if you imagine that the queen had a chronic skin disease and that she found short-term relief from a salve, then she may have been exposing herself to a great risk over the years. So they think it probably like lung disease. It just kind of, built up in her system and then killed her.
It's like she was using cigarette lotion.
Yeah.
God, what the hell?
So now we're going back to her stepson, Tutmos III.
Tutmos III, the little 12-year-old still picking his nose who can't do anything.
I would assume he's probably in his 30s by now.
Still picking his nose, though, I bet.
So late in his reign, I didn't really read anything about his reign because I didn't care. But this involves her.
This isn't about him, okay?
So late in his reign, Thutmose III began a campaign to eradicate Hatshepsut's memory.
Bitch.
He destroyed or defaced a lot of her monuments, erased her from many inscriptions, and constructed a wall around her obelisks.
They did that, though. Whenever there was a female ruler, the next male ruler would, scratch their faces out and replace them with the man's.
Yeah.
And, just completely erase their existence from history.
Some people are on his side, and I can understand this, because they say some people believe that he did it out of a long-held grudge, which I could see, but some people also say that maybe it was more of a political effort to emphasize that he was the rightful line of succession and ensure that no one challenged his son, Amenhotep II, for the throne. So, but I get that, because in Egypt, yes, I see you over there, Emily.
I'm just
She's making the
jerk off
sign.
motion so hard. I'm very upset about this.
But you know what I mean?
Douche canoe.
It's kind of like you see in British history that people it's very all about the line of succession,
and their bloodlines are always under scrutiny,
right?
I get
and especially
it, but
since
fuck him.
Hatshepsut wasn't his mother, because he was a secondary wife kid.
B team.
B team
So
child.
B team.
So they estimate that she was in her mid-40s when she died.
That's not bad.
No. She was buried in the Valley of the Kings, located in the hills behind Deir al-Bahri. In another effort to legitimize her reign, she had her father's sarcophagus reburied in her tomb so that they could lie together in death.
That's a baller move.
Right.
Hey, you can scratch out my face, but my father, who started this, is gonna chill with me for all eternity.
Right.
So double fuck you, you nose-picking bastard.
Right. She did pass on to Thutmose III a love of building, and he did go on to be an ambitious builder himself, but he didn't do as well as her.
Yeah,
he did
'cause
reign
he's a
longer.
dick.
He reigned for about 30 years, but I mean, he kind of inherited the throne late, so.
Yeah, he basically had someone else doing his job, who then was like, I'm going to be recognized for doing this job, and then he threw a hissy fit.
And as a consequence of him throwing that hissy fit and erasing her, scholars of ancient Egypt knew very little about her until about 1822. So it's fairly recent.
Is she the topic of the fourth never-released mummy movie?
Maybe. But that's when they were finally able to decode and read some of the hieroglyphs on the Deir al-Bahri, which is one of the temples she built. And in 1903, the British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered Hatshepsut's sarcophagus, one of 3 that she had prepared. See? Funerary cult.
Dude!
However, it was empty like nearly all of the tombs in the Valley of Kings.
Oh, no!
Yep. After launching a new search in 2005, a team of archaeologists discovered her mummy in 2007.
Where was it?
It never said. Maybe one of the other 2 sarcophagi? I don't know.
It was just like tomb adjacent?
It is now housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo.
Oh my god.
So, yep, that was Hatshepsut, who got basically erased from history until 1822, which is, almost... Hold on. Math and wine.
Don't make me math.
Well, because you figure she died in 1458. So that's 1458 years to 0. And then another 1855. So add those 2 together, and that's how long she was forgotten about.
I'm just going to take your word for it because I'm not even trying to math.
Okay.
I'm just going to nod and smile.
Nod and smile.
Yeah, math, numbers, calculations. I get that.
It's okay. You don't have to math, but you do have to speak now.
Okay. That's a really interesting story, and the whole time you're saying that, I'm like, I'm getting a lot of vibes with my gal, and I think they would have gotten along really well.
Wavelength.
Yeah, we're on our Femi family wavelength,
Heck
just
yeah.
riding the red tide together. Not that you have to have a period to be a woman, but we both have periods.
Not right now.
Not right now.
At least not mine.
I just ended mine.
I'm just coming up to mine.
I'm so sorry. So my dad is unendingly supportive, and I love him. And I was actually talking to him about my gal last night, and I was encouraging him to listen. And so I get to teach him how to use like Spotify or something. And now I'm realizing he's going to get to hear me talking about riding the red wave.
Yeah, he's going to be like, oh God, that's my daughter.
Yep.
And then he's going to be like, go M!
No, he's going to be like, yeah, it's not my daughter. No, this is a different kind of person.
He just won't pass on the podcast to other people.
Yeah. Oh, so what's your daughter up to? What daughter?
I have a daughter?
Wait.
Yeah, that one. She writes something.
She does stuff. She's working.
She's very
somewhere.
Creative.
Yeah, she's doing. I don't know.
It's okay.
We're not.
I
close.
love my father, but he is not technologically savvy enough to ever hear this podcast.
So you can.
And
say
I am
whatever you
okay
want.
with that. It's okay. My husband will probably also never listen to this podcast. So, not that he's not supportive, he just doesn't care to.
Yeah, I feel like Jared, my boyfriend's kind of that way. He's like, yeah, you do you,
Yeah, right.
but I'm going to do me over here.
I'm going to go play video games in the other room.
He does listen to me talk about who I'm researching, and I'll just go, you will not fucking believe what I just read. This is bullshit. And he
funny.
just kind of like... Okay, so there's a little bit of backstory to this. Kelley and I recently had the honor of attending a traditional Hindu Indian wedding. One of my coworkers who is from India just got married, And
it was beautiful.
It was a trip. I've never been to a non-Western wedding ceremony. I don't think either of us have.
I don't know if I've been to like outdoor weddings and non like Catholic Christian weddings because obviously mine wasn't religious. But I don't think like outside of like Catholicism, is that the overarching one? Christianity. I always get that wrong. I like outside of Christianity, I don't think I've even been out that like other than like non-denominational weddings. Like I don't think I've stepped out the Christianity / non-denominational. Jesus.
Why did we decide to drink and do this podcast?
It's great.
It's awesome.
Until then, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not just Western, but religion-wise, I've never gone to anything else either. Like, I don't think I've even been to a Jewish wedding.
Oh, yeah, me neither. I mean, hey, if you want to invite us
to pause and like
Jewish wedding, Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov, I'll dance.
Yeah,
I'll watch you get carried around on a chair if you're a woman. I think they do that, right? That's not offensive, I hope.
Actually,
sorry if that's offensive.
I was a part of the Jewish student organization when I was in college because they had so few members. I was the treasurer.
I remember that.
And so
I somehow never got recruited, probably because I just kind of like avoided the subject.
You came to the event sometimes though, and that was really cool.
It's kind of like how I got weirdly indoctrinated into United Way too.
Oh yeah,
because I wasn't actually like a part of United Way, but I just went and like randomly did stuff with you guys and like walked in the parade for United Way.
Yep. Yeah, I was vice president of Student United Way in college, and that sounds way more prestigious than it actually was because there were like 3 of us that actually did shit. Yeah. So, but anyway, so we went to this Indian wedding, and what's really cool about it is it's actually like almost a week-long event because the bride does all of these things to get ready, and I was not involved with the groom, so I don't know if he's doing stuff on the periphery that I was not aware of. But I got invited to do the henna, so I'm still rocking my henna on my hands, and I got to see the bride.
Can put a picture of that on the blog.
We should. I did take a picture when it wasn't as faded because my hands are starting to get a little ghosty.
It's still pretty.
It is. I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. I was in a meeting today, and the girl right away was like, "Were you at a wedding?" Because I guess her sister went to a lot of Indian weddings because she had a lot of Indian friends, so she knew what was up. But so I got invited to the henna party, and then there was a holiday ceremony the next day that unfortunately I slept through because my phone died in the middle of the night and didn't go off. So, but I saw pictures, and it was like this whole cleansing and really cool. And the ceremony itself was actually about 4 hours. The bride was carried in on a basket. Twice. There was a costume change. There was an intermission and a costume change. And you know how, like, if you're familiar with a typical church wedding, as soon as the organ starts playing, you sit down, you shut up, and phones are away, and you're super engaged the whole time. And while we were very engaged with the ceremony, everyone's, they're coming in and out of the reception hall, they're on their phones, they're chatting, because, again, this is 4 hours, and everyone was very aware of the length of time.
And maybe that's not traditional. We've never been to a wedding like this, but it was all very comfortable. It was very weird because there were not a lot of white people there. There was like 7 of us total.
Yeah, and 90% of them were me and my coworkers.
Yeah, and me, who just got to take along, which was awesome.
Which is, that's what a lot of people experience on a day-to-day basis, being the minority.
But it felt very inclusive. Like, there were certain times where you could kind of tell that they were like, oh, you probably don't know our tradition.
But they were really cool about it.
But yeah, everyone was very open about it.
Yeah, everyone was very friendly and accepting. I was wearing a dress from India that the bride had gotten me. And she's like, you can wear it, you cannot wear it, just depending on how your comfort level. And I'm like, I'm never going to get to wear this again. So I rocked my Indian dress.
Let's be honest, I made her wear it.
Okay, yeah, I brought 3 dresses to Kelley, and I was like, okay, you need to tell me which one to wear. And I had like a traditional Western dress, and I had 2 Indian dresses, and she picked one of the Indian dresses for me. But one of the other guests, she walked by me and she touched my shoulder. She's like, you look very beautiful. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna cry.
And these women in this culture, I feel like at least a lot of the women I saw must have been, very comfortable with their bodies, because there was a lot of midriff showing of women on all sizes, and it was wonderful. But these saris, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
That these women were wearing were stunning. all different colors, all different cuts. Like, these things were stunning.
They were
so that's
gorgeous.
awesome
and they
that
were
they stopped to, like,
colorful.
compliment you.
Yeah. I was
no
like,
offense.
I look like crap compared to all of you. You look incredible.
You should have been in my mind, because I'm like, wow, I'm wearing a Western style dress. I literally know no one except for Emily. This is super awkward.
I'm so glad you were there with me, though, because I would have felt 20 billion times more uncomfortable, because you need that person you're really comfortable with. And we kind of like linked together in our awkwardness, because both of us were so terrified of doing something wrong because we were like overly aware of our ignorance. And during the ceremony, because everyone's on their phones and kind of doing their own thing, we were on our phones and we're looking up what's happening and trying to follow along, because obviously we can't understand from the officiant's words.
And I'm actually really glad we looked it up, because like I felt like we were more a part of it then, because we were like, oh, this is a cleansing thing. Oh, this is the bride being given away. You know, and then the 7 steps and all this stuff. And I feel like I wouldn't have been as immersed in it if I hadn't done a little research.
Exactly. And it was a really great experience, and it got me thinking about badass women from India.
Ooh.
So this is the one and only female ruler of Delhi, Razia al-Din, or Razia Sultan, or Sultan of Delhi. And this is a note. I'm saying Sultan. Normally I say Sultan, but when I told my coworker who had just gotten married who I was covering, she was like, what are you saying? I was like, Sultan. And she's like, oh, you mean Sultan. And I'm like, oh, that's not how you say it. Like, the one word in this story, I didn't bother looking up the pronunciation, because I'm like, I got this. She's like, no, it sounds like you're saying Sulkin. And I'm like, okay. So this is in honor of her and inspired by her. So congratulations on your marriage, and thank you for including us. And we're going to talk about this badass gal. Razia was born to... Okay, before I get started, there are a lot of Indian names in this, obviously, and I wrote pronunciation notes. Nice. So there are going to be pauses while I remember how to pronounce these and like go through my phonetic notes.
I feel like at the beginning of every episode, we should just have we apologize for any mispronunciation on names in languages we are not familiar with.
If I'm covering like an English or American gal, you know it's just because I did not have time to deal with pronunciations that week. So she was born to Shams-ud-Din Iltutmish, a former Turk slave in 1205. So we're going way back.
80?
I assume 1205.
Because otherwise, I think if it was BC, they'd specifically call it out, like my girl.
Yeah. His master, Qut-ud-Din Aibak, a former slave himself, was the first Sultan of Delhi and held Razia's father in high regard, so much so that the Sultan allowed Iltutmish to marry his only daughter, Qut Begum.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Sultan was a slave and then gets really friendly with his slave and is like, hey,
you can marry the Sultan's daughter.
And wow. I apologize. I think
real world Aladdin right there.
Yeah.
Aladdin wasn't a slave, but
I mean, definitely lower class.
Yeah.
But I think I forgot to write down the dynasty that she was a part of, but it translates to the slave dynasty. Okay. And it makes sense because she's like third in line of a line of slaves.
Okay.
So Iltutmish married the Sultan's daughter, who then gave birth to Razia and her brother Nasruddin Mahmud.
Were they twins or just gave birth at some point
At
to
some
both
point.
of them?
At some point. You know, there was sex, there were babies, it happened.
Okay. But it wasn't like babies at the same time.
No. If they were twins,
wanted to clarify.
No one mentioned it, which I feel like is worth mentioning. As part of the ruling family, Razia had a privileged upbringing. She was close to high-ranking members of the court and harem, where her mother was dominant. She was also the favorite of her father and her maternal grandfather. So she's growing up and she's living the life.
So the maternal grandfather would be the Sultan.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose women did rule the harems of India, basically.
Yeah, so the Sultan had a harem, and the Sultan's daughter was kind of the top gal. She was the tier A.
That's so weird for me to think of, because when I think of, like, harems, I think of, like, concubines. And one of my gals later down the line is also Indian. So I know now that that's not always what a harem is.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, when I was first doing the research, I would have been like, so he's sleeping with his daughter. But that's not a thing. And I wanted to clarify that for listeners, too. Like, harem does not always mean concubines.
Yeah, and we'll get a little more into the harem. I didn't research it too deeply, because the story already got pretty long.
It's okay. We'll get to it in a few weeks if we don't get to it today.
Contrary-wise, her half-brothers, Rukn-ud-Din Feroz and Muzuddin Bahram, who were children of former slave girls, were not favored and grew up away from the centers of power.
Okay,
so
so her father
has his harem, and his wife is
And
the head of
like-
that harem. But he's like making his
so
rounds.
So some harems are concubines.
And I just want to point out, we're talking about him having a harem and these former slave girls.
Like,
I have a hard
secondary
time.
wives.
Yeah, but I have a hard time imagining there was an ability to consent there. So I do want to acknowledge that. That's not,
But we also don't know, because it depends. If they were former slaves at the time, they may have chosen. Because you have to remember, in a time like that was a huge honor.
Yeah, but did
Which I
they
guess-
also have a choice?
That's true.
It's like, okay, you can either keep being a slave or you can fuck this dude for the rest of your life and have a bunch of his babies. So things were not great for being a woman back then. Let's just leave it at
Yeah,
that.
we'll just go with that.
When Razia was 5 years old, the Sultan died. Her father succeeded him, becoming the Sultan. As her father's favorite, Razia was allowed to accompany him as he dealt with affairs of state. She was also trained to administer a kingdom in the event her father or husband were absent. So she was trained to step in if the male ruler could no longer rule for whatever reason.
Nice.
So kind of like the regent
Mhm.
that Hatshepsut, if I'm saying that right, was. Because of Razia's privilege and the opportunities she had to observe her father, she didn't adopt the same reserved behavior of other women around her and was a confident, outspoken woman. So she didn't
not a
absorb
thing.
that socialization that you need to be.
In the background.
Yeah, you don't talk to anyone, you don't raise your voice,
Yep.
you don't. No
I mean,
one looks
obviously,
at you.
Hatshepsut never got that either, because she was queen so young, and then she was regent, and then she's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna be pharaoh.
She rocked it. She fucking rocked it. I love it. Despite Razia's abilities, intelligence, and royal lineage, her brother, Nasruddin, was groomed to succeed Iltutmish instead.
Makes
Which,
sense,
not
yeah.
fair, but I get it. He's the son. He's
Right.
got a dick. So that's where it goes.
Gangly thing between the legs.
However, when Nasruddin suddenly died in 1229, Iltutmish found him suddenly without a successor, as he didn't feel his surviving sons, who were
Were the
Razia's
slave
half-siblings, were worthy of the throne because they were all mothered by former slaves.
Well, they were very much like, no, you're not in the spotlight.
Yeah, they were the result of some happy fun time for Iltutmish, and they were not actually really in the equation.
Yeah.
When Iltutmish had to leave the capital to lead an invasion to capture the city of Gwalior in 1230, Razia stepped up and acted as regent in his absence.
Yeah, regents.
Yes! Regents for the win. Upon his return, a year later, having successfully captured the city, Iltutmish made Razia his heiress apparent, making him the first sultan to do so. So this dude's been at war for a year. He's probably seen some shit. He's probably come close to dying. So he comes back. He's like, I need to figure this out ASAP.
Right? And
You've been ruling the kingdom
And it's
for
still
a year.
here.
It's still here. You haven't burned it down. Let's do this. Let's make it official. And good for him, finally. Down note, unfortunately for Razia, after her father's death in 1236, her half-brother, Rukin, ascended the throne instead.
Whose decision was that?
A bunch of Turkish noblemen who didn't want a chick on the throne. Now, let's see how Rukin did. During his reign, his mother, Shah Turkan, basically ran the government, allowing Rukin to indulge in sexy, finger quotes, personal pleasures.
I don't even know if you needed sexy finger quotes for that. The voice was enough.
Yeah, but I like the emphasis. I like doing the sexy finger quotes because it makes me feel very sexy. So Shah Turkan was a former handmaid and used her newfound power to seek vengeance on those who had hurt her in the past, which, like, I feel your righteous anger, but maybe don't execute a bunch of people who pissed you off now that you're in power.
Technically, your son's in power and you're just like, meh.
Yeah, but it's not even that he's too young. He just doesn't want to be bothered.
Right? Like, at least when Hatshepsut ascended, like, she's like, I'm gonna do some good shit with this. That person's like, I'm gonna fucking kill everyone.
Yeah. I mean...
It's like the Sweeney Todd of ancient Turkey. No, India. Sorry. I got confused because you said Turkish noblemen.
Yeah, the Turkish noblemen come into play, and then Razia's father was a Turk slave. So they are in play here, but this does take place in India.
Okay.
Just to clarify. So her execution-y revenge shit naturally displeased the citizens, and on November 9th of the same year, both Rukin and his mother were assassinated.
Cool.
They were in power for just 6 months. So he done fucked up, and she done fucked up.
Well, really, it's she done fucked up and he done fucked other things.
She fucked up while he was fucking everything else. Reluctantly, the nobility agreed to allow Razia to finally reign as Sultan of Delhi under the official name. Oh my god, why didn't I write a pronunciation for this?
You got this.
Jalal-ud-Din Razia.
That's beautiful.
Confidence. This made her the first and only woman ruler of Delhi. I commonly found her referred to as Razia Sultana, which is like the feminine form of Sultan. But one resource was saying that she actually rejected the feminine form Sultana, saying it meant wife or mistress of a sultan. So it's like, I'm not going to be called a queen. I'm a fucking king.
So, and that might be the reason Hatshepsut stuck with the masculine figure, you know? She's like, no, I'm in power. You're going to fucking recognize it.
These gals would have totally fucking vibed together.
Oh
my God. I love it.
They could have ruled the world.
Oh my God, how great would our world have been? We would have had all the frankincense and myrrh. She instead preferred to be addressed as Sultan, which I love. As part of her becoming a ruler, Razia gave up purda, which is the practice of living in a separate room or dressing in all-enveloping clothing in order to stay out of sight of men or strangers. So it's like modesty laws. She instead opted to dress similarly to the male rulers before her, which was a shocking move in a conservative Muslim society.
Oh, sure.
So again, she's kind of presenting herself as a masculine figure to separate herself from the other women and to establish herself as a ruler equal to, if not better than, the men that came before her. Which sucks that she had to do that, and same with Hatshepsut, but it's a baller move. Right? And I respect it.
It's like they knew what they had to do to get shit done. And
they knew
like,
what
this is what I gotta do, this is what I gotta fucking do, and I'm gonna do it better than the people before me.
Get it done. Unlike her half-brother, Razia was a successful ruler and ruled for more than 6 months. I might contradict myself. I forgot my notes. According to Persian historian Minhaj-i-Siraj, Razia was, quote, sagacious, just, beneficent, the patron of the learned, a dispenser of justice, the cherisher of her subjects, and of warlike talent, and endowed with all the admirable attributes and qualifications necessary for a king, unquote.
You know what I like about that? Unlike when we did Marie Gouge, or Alamte Gouge, sorry. Where did I get Marie from?
That was the name she was born with.
There you go. So when we did Alamte Gouge, you know, a lot of stuff about her, even when positive, was, oh, she's beautiful.
And
whereas this
smart.
Is this person's like, nah, she's baller. Like, she's got everything we look for and is a great king.
And I think part of that is this is a contemporary historian. This isn't someone at the time being like, wow, she's so beautiful. And she, like, does shit.
Still,
Who
it's
would have
nice.
thought? You're right. I definitely appreciate that. So polite golf claps to you, sir. During her reign, she acted as chief of the army and even rode an elephant to lead her forces into battle. She captured new territories and expanded her kingdom. She also tried to get rid of the tax imposed on non-Muslims, but the nobility opposed her.
Oh.
So there was this tension, I think is a nice way of saying it, between the Muslim rulers and then Hindu citizens. And if you were not a Muslim, you were taxed because you weren't a Muslim. And she's like, that's bullshit. And she tried to get rid of it. But again, the nobility was like, but no, fuck you. Which is bullshit. Razia was not just a competent warrior. She also worked to strengthen her kingdom by encouraging trade, strengthening the infrastructure, and establishing proper laws. So yeah, she's working on it, not just expanding the kingdom, but improving it from the inside out.
Right. And building those relationships with other countries by trading.
Sisters from other misters.
Right.
And other
and,
countries.
you know, like
and other years.
Hundreds of years.
She also minted 3 coins with her title as Pillar of Woman, Queen of Times, and Sultan Razia, daughter of Shamsuddin Iltutmish.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, I got my face on some money. You will remember me, honey. Razia eventually married a childhood friend and governor of Bathinda, Malik Ikhtiar al-Tutniya. However, the details of their relationship are murky at best, as often historical things from all the way back then are. He had long hoped to be her royal consort, but Razia's responsibilities as Sultan took priority, so she continuously turned down his marriage proposal. She's like, honey, you're cute, but like, I'm doing shit.
I'm busy. I have a fucking nation to run.
Go take a cold
Put
shower.
Put it back in your pants.
And chill. Still, they did work together, and he supported her through her reign.
Good. Another guy that's good at being friend-zoned, at least temporarily.
We'll see. So what I'm about to read is actually, there were 2 versions I read. And so I'm just going to go through it, and then we're going to kind of take a step back and do some cleanup. After Malik became governor, Razia relied on a slave named Jamaluddin Yaqut, causing his status to quickly skyrocket from Lord of Stables, which sounds pretty sweet anyway, to Chief of the Nobles, which is significantly sweeter. There were rumors spread by Turkish nobles trying to tarnish her reputation that Razia and Yaqut were in a relationship.
So wait, other people can have harems, but if you're a woman, nah, you don't get a side piece.
Yeah, if you're a woman descended from a long line of Sultan slaves, you don't get to be involved with a slave.
Pieces.
Yeah,
no side pieces.
Fuck off. This prompted Malik to lead a rebellion against Razia. Some historians argue he was trying to win her back and protect her from the nobles who resented her, while others say he was trying to take power, which, like...
No fuck. Or no shit.
Like, are these just royal problems that I don't understand? It's like, well, I'm really jealous because you're with this dude, so I'm going to invade your kingdom. Like, talk to each other, bitch.
It's like a movie where everything could literally be solved by them having a conversation.
I hate those movies. I'm like, sit down and talk out your problems like grown-ass adults.
We're literally in the middle of watching a movie like that, though.
Oh my god. So we started out, before this podcast, we were drinking wine and watching Sweeney Todd. And literally, if everyone had just had an honest conversation...
If she had literally just been like, hey, your wife didn't die, but went crazy, spoiler alert...
Okay, this movie and play are super old, so fuck you if that's got spoiled.
But you know what I mean? Like, if she was, because she said, oh, your wife poisoned herself, but then just forgot to mention, and she didn't die. So if she had just been like, oh, but she didn't die, she's just this crazy woman out on the street, so much of what happened wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, but Mrs. Lovett straight up did that on purpose.
He still might have killed people.
Yeah, well, let me see here.
I keep making Emily lose her nose.
It's so small. I need to do
I was doing it on my phone.
Okay, you know what? My problems do not diminish your problems, and your problems do not diminish mine. My problems are valid, okay? On my big old laptop with my nice big text. So shush. During the rebellion, Yaqut was killed, conveniently, and Razia was captured by Malik. While in prison in Bathinda, It said she was treated well because Malik was in love with her. Eventually, Razia was released and she and Malik were married. Doesn't that just sound so sexy?
No.
A lot of resources I read pushed a romantic narrative between the two. Very Beauty and the Beast style. Like, well, he captured her to protect her, but he was still kind of mad and jealous, but her heart melted because he was so nice to her and, like, allowed her to continue worshipping. And like,
it was probably like, make me your fucking king or I'm going to kill you.
That is literally the next line. But others argue that Razia, as a fucking prisoner, not sexy finger quotes, married Malik to avoid being executed, which fucked my head so bad because I was reading about him and trying to figure out his deal, and all these resources are like, oh, he loved her so much and he invaded to protect her and he was just jealous. And I'm like,
well, it's the whole history goes to the victors. So he probably, and whoever came after him, probably wrote it to seem that way.
Well, they weren't thinking about this whole, well, if you're a prisoner, can you really consent? You know, it's those kinds of issues were not even on the radar. So, of course, when this story is written, it's seen as very romantic and over the top. When really, this dude who wanted her power and was jealous invaded her kingdom, took her prisoner, and married her when she
forcibly
could not consent.
Yeah.
So, fuck you, dude.
There's nothing romantic about that.
And especially because while she was held prisoner by her now husband, gross.
Was she still held prisoner after they got married?
No, but
yeah.
In the story, they're married now.
Proceed.
While she was held prisoner, her half-brother, Moose,
the other one,
proclaimed himself king, backed by 40 chiefs because he's a dude.
He's a dude, he's of the correct lineage, and she's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Razia, with the help of Malik, tried to regain power, assembling their forces and marching towards Dehli, which sounds like a husband and wife team getting together to, like, go kick ass. I'm like, what the hell else is she gonna do?
Right? That's her kingdom.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they were defeated by Moose. Deserted by their remaining forces, Razia and Malik fled from Dehli to Kaithal. The day after their defeat, on October 14th, 1240, they were both killed. Razia's reign lasted only 4 years, and she
Better than 6 months.
Yes, true. I didn't have to contradict myself. She was only 35. Razia's burial site is disputed and is said to be in one of 3 places.
What's with these women in threes?
It's the Holy
3
Trinity,
sarcophagi.
man.
Sorry, that's my dogs.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry if you can hear that. Kelley's dogs are desperate for their 15 minutes of fame.
They're like, Mommy!
They're so cute. You know what? They know we're drinking out of pug glasses.
Yep, today I am unpugged.
I am a pug shot, which sounded just the right level of dangerous for me. So burial place number 1, a courtyard in Bulbul-e-Khan near Turkmen Gate, Delhi. There's a second grave next to hers, which is said to be her sister, who I really didn't read about until now, so I didn't get into it.
I'm like, none of your other notes mentioned a sister. What?
Yeah,
okay.
You know what? Her father was kind of fucking everyone, so I can totally
probably more of
believe
a half sister.
There was a sister in there.
B-team sister.
Part of the tomb has been converted into a mosque.
Oh.
Burial place number 2, Kaithal, where the Viceroy of India, Lord Linlithgow, visited her tomb in 1938. Burial place number 3, Tonk, Rajasthan, where it's said she was buried with Yakut, the slave who was killed. None of these say she was buried with her, like,
husband,
unsexy quotes husband / rapist / imprisoner.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
It's her fault she died. Or
What?
his fault. Sorry, it's
I
her
was
fault.
like,
it's
whoa.
his fault she died.
Yeah.
Because if he hadn't been jealous and wanting her power, he wouldn't have kidnapped her. You know.
Taken over.
And then her brother wouldn't have been in power. And then they wouldn't have had to fight for it and flee for their lives, which didn't work.
You know what, though? I bet he was just such a nice guy, and he would have treated
They
her
were just
so much more nicely.
so in love. Like, he just loved her so much.
She just didn't realize how much he loved her. The dogs are very upset about this. I don't know if you can hear
Tiny Pug.
I don't know if you can hear the scratching on the door, but it's adorable. She's very upset about this situation. She has honorary tombs in all 3 places.
So, unlike Hatshepsut, where, obviously her tombs, at least 2 of them have probably been exhumed, and they did find her body, they've never looked in these tombs. I'm guessing because they don't know.
Yeah,
There must be more of a religious thing, and it's newer. It's within the correct era,
it could
after
also
Christ.
It could also be a historical thing. Kind of, there are rumors as to where she's buried, where she died, and so there are these honorary tombs kind of marking these potential spots. Because hey, cover all your bases.
Yeah, people just might not know.
Exactly. In 1883, a biopic about Razia called Razia Sultan, starring Hema Malini, was made, winning the Filmfare Award for Best Art Direction. Most recently, in 2015, a TV series called Razia Sultan, super creative with the names,
always,
aired starring Pantkuri Awashthi. I'm so sorry, because I forgot to write down pronunciation notes for that. This depicted her life and her passionate love with Altunia.
Is that the guy we don't like?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw a clip of it online, and because I couldn't understand what they were saying, it was very awkward because she was like talking to him, tried to walk away, and he grabbed her arm and then was like talking to her, and she's just kind of standing there listening.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like just really awkward because she's just standing there for the longest time listening to him, and I'd be like, bitch, let go of my arm.
I am your
Sultan.
Sultan.
So yeah, that is Razia Sultan, the first and only woman ruler of Delhi.
Yay.
Yeah.
Bitchin' woman ruler.
I wish her story had a happier ending and not such a romantic
both
twist.
of ours were kind of like, yeah. We kind of go for, because like our first episode was kind of depressing at the end.
Our second episode, you ended with a woman who's still alive and kicking ass.
Yeah, that's true. That was a slightly bright spot.
And
that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be a roller coaster. Like, woo!
Thank you for joining us on this roller coaster of history. So now,
strap in and strap on.
Strap in and strap on, people. It's getting real. So now, to pick ourselves up, we need to say something we're thankful for.
I'm thankful for the dogs you hear in the background. they are my biggest stress relief. On our blog, you can go to our about page, and I'll put a picture of them up.
Aww.
But they are. I'm thankful for all 3 of them, even though the tiny one's a handful. But just because they're my biggest stress relief. They're always happy to see me when I get home. I get tons of cuddles. Yeah. What are you thankful for? I
am thankful that we publish this podcast.
You always make me feel so bad.
No, I'm thankful that we published this podcast after I caught my egregious spelling error. So a little earlier, I was talking about how we're called Whining About Herstory without an E. And that is because for the first month of us putting this together, I was spelling whining, W-I-N-E-I-N-G.
Literally everything. We had an email address, our blog,
our logo.
Literally everything had an E.
We just hadn't published any episodes because I forgot whining is a word. I was like, I can spell it however the hell I want.
I thought it was intentional that we were spelling it with an E.
And so one day I was writing my notes and all of a sudden it hit me. Whining and dining is a phrase that people commonly use. Oh my God, whining is a word. I Googled it. W-I-N-I-N-G.
So
God damn it.
I woke up the next morning to 4 or 5 texts of her, because I had already gone to sleep apparently, of her just being like, there's not supposed to be an E. We need to change everything. Oh my God, no E.
I hit you up on text message and Facebook Messenger and everything.
Over here snoring.
I freaked out so fucking bad. And it's funny because everyone I've told that story to is like, wait, you mean you don't spell it with an E? That's not right. So I freaked out and no one would have given a shit.
No, everyone would have thought we were correct. I've literally had people be like, whining with the E, ? And I'm like, no, it's without the E. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes.
Now I'm
sure.
starting to doubt it. Like, I Googled it. It's Wining, but now I'm like, oh my God, did Google lie to
We're
me?
gonna have to change everything back.
Oh my God.
We might not be able to do that with the WordPress. But shout out to the two WordPress people that did help us in changing our name and deleting our old site and getting our new one up and running with as little hassle as possible.
And for free.
Yeah, they were nice enough to give us credit so that we could switch our domain from one name to the other. So I just want to shout out to them and all the help they gave us because they were amazing and they were so nice. And I'm pretty sure they probably laughed about us behind our back because I would have done that if I was them.
Oh, yeah. And we deserve it for sure. But seriously, we need awesome men to support women in their adventures. So thank you, WordPress. So that's what I'm thankful for.
Or women. It could have been women.
No, I thought we got their names and they were...
One of them didn't give us their name. So that could have been a woman.
WordPress individuals. Cheers to you. We're going to clink. Clink.
And thank you to everyone that I've seen, watching our blog, interacting with us on Instagram, Facebook. Please, if you're listening, go and review. We need to legitimize ourselves.
Big smiles. We need the validation.
Seriously, thank you so much. We did this on a whim and we're really hoping that it'll pick up. And even if it doesn't pick up, we'll probably do it anyways. But, we want to say we're thankful for you on top of everything else.
Thank you so much for supporting us. We appreciate it. And you can hit us up on Instagram at WAHpod, Facebook Whining About Herstory. Email us at whiningaboutherstory@gmail.com. We want to hear about the powerful women in your lives.
Yeah, please send us your stories. And if we get enough, we'll do like a listener episode where we read off those. If you're okay with it, like if you just want to share with us about a woman in your life and you don't want us to read it on air, just let us know. Or if you do want us to read it on air, let us know. And really just anything. Like we'd love to interact with you guys. And like I said before, our blog is it is a blog. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what I was going there. whiningaboutherstory.com, and that'll also have all the links to our other sites.
Thank you so much for listening, and have an empowered day.
Woohoo.
Bye.